Ahoy there! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another ship fitting guide for Eve Echoes. Today we're looking at another one of the Tech Level 7 Battlecruisers with the Amarr Harbinger Prototype. This has been a very popular request. A lot of you folks have been asking, hey Benzie, can you do a video on the Harbinger? We want to see how you'd fit it, what this ship does, how to use it, yada yada yada. Is it worth our time? Now I do need to apologise in advance. As I've mentioned many times, I am a frigate and destroyer focused pilot. That means I don't really have much in the way of cruiser or battlecruiser skills at all. For this video, therefore, I am unable to do a proper combat demonstration, simply because I don't have the skills to actually back this up, and it's not a proper showcase of what this ship can actually do. It's not doing the ship justice. I'll talk about what it does, and I'll talk about its fittings, but I can't showcase it actually in combat. That said, I am now currently training up an alt who is learning nothing but medium turret skills so that I can showcase cruisers and battlecruisers to a better ability in future videos, so do stay tuned for that. I may have another one of these at a future point in time. Anyway, if you do enjoy this video, let me know by hitting a like on it, sub to the channel for all things Eve Echoes, ding that notification bell so that you never miss a video, and let me know what topics you want me to cover in future, either by commenting down below or finding me on social media. Finally, if you want to go the extra mile to support this channel, you can do so on Patreon, details on screen now. That said and done then, let's talk about the Harbinger Prototype. Unlike the Caldari and the Gallente, the Amarr Empire and the Minmatar Republic both have two Tech Level 7 battlecruisers to choose from. With Minmatar, obviously, they get the Cyclone and the Hurricane prototype. Here with Amarr, you get both the Prophecy and you get the Harbinger prototype. Now, key point that a lot of people have been asking, as it's a prototype, can you bring it back with insurance vouchers like you could with the Shan Yu prototype and the Can Yu prototype? And the answer here is no. You cannot bring this ship back using insurance vouchers. Don't fly it riskily thinking, I can just bring it back. You can't. You will be disappointed if you try that. Anyway, let's have a look at its attributes and fittings page. Here you can see you've got one drone tube which can launch either small or medium drones. It's got 6 high slots, 3 mid slots, 5 low slots, and then 3 of each of the rigs. The defense here is a whopping 21,190, and as you would expect for an Amarr ship, the vast majority of that, 6,718, is found in the armor section. Structure is 5,488, which is still fairly respectable, and even the shield, which is only 4,561, in comparison it's small, but overall that is still a very large amount of shield on this for ships to blast through. That said, 6,718 on the armour, 100% as you would expect for an Amarr ship, this is an armour tank. If you look further down as well, you'll see its signature radius is truly monstrous, 233.6 meters. This is not a ship that passes by unnoticed. You can lock onto it very quickly, and you are almost guaranteed to hit it with any weapon that's got decent tracking, and your missiles are going to apply their damage pretty well, regardless of which type you're using, simply because of how absolutely stonkingly massive that signature radius is. On the other side though, the scan resolution of the Harbinger itself is actually pretty low at 226. That means it's going to take a bit of time to try and lock onto anything that's remotely smaller than itself. Flight velocity of 181 combined with that signature radius means that there is no way in heck you are ever going to speed tank this. Like literally you could just put nothing but auxiliary thrusters on here and micro warp drives and you're just never going to hit a speed even close to speed tanking. Mass as well with the inertia modifier does make for a fairly hefty slow moving ship. It actually turns a little bit faster than you might expect a ship of this size to do, but it is still very slow to warp, very slow to align, and very slow to actually move through the battlefield. That is, of course, something to bear in mind. Relocating this as a battlecruiser, relocating this takes time. Fortunately, however, looking at the trait description and the roll bonuses here, you can see you get a 25% increase to both medium laser optimal range and to medium laser accuracy fall-off. That is just a straight up increase to the range of your weapons and something you can really lie into. I mean, heck, who cares that you can't get in and out of combat very quickly if you can get into combat a long way away, kill them from a distance, and then move on before they get anywhere near you. Ultimately, that's the advantage here of the Harbinger prototype. Command Burst's module slot as well. Command Burst modules aren't in the game yet. We can only speculate as to what these are and how they'll work. In EVE Online, they're little pulses that can give your nearby friendly ships a boost to their HP, either their armor or shield, that kind of thing. We don't know how those are going to be in EVE Echoes. We don't know when those are coming, so more information on that as we get it. Now, looking at the skill bonuses here, you can see Advanced Medium Laser Upgrade will give an increase of 8% to medium laser damage. Obviously, that's a total of 40 at full training, and a 10% reduction to medium laser capacity need. Now, that 40% increase to medium laser damage is actually rather powerful. It means the 6 turrets work pretty much as if they were 8. It's a lot of extra firepower coming from that skill, and ultimately that's why I can't properly showcase this, because I don't have that skill on any of my characters yet. Battlecruiser Command then also gives you an inertia modifier reduction of 5% per level. 25% reduction in total makes this ship that little bit more manoeuvrable, great for getting out of a tight spot or just getting into combat and manoeuvring around the battlefield as required. That said then, looking at those skills and that roll bonus, how on earth would you actually fit one of these things? Here I need to give a big shout out to the aptly named Iconoclast for lending me this Harbinger Prototype. Just the hull, the fittings are something I've sat here and played around with myself to see if I have an idea of what I want to do with this. I have tried this in some combat, and it's done okay. I've been able to do tier 6 missions okay with it, but then again for a tier 7 battlecruiser you would expect better. As I said, that's why I'm not showcasing this in combat myself, simply because I'm aware that the failings that I have in this ship are purely based on me not having the relevant skills trained in order to make the most of it. As such then, how would I recommend you fit this? Well, the top slots, I'm going to go here for straight up medium beam lasers, not the pulses, beams. If we've got an increase to optimal range and to accuracy fall off, I want to be using the one that has the highest values there to get the most out of it. Think of it this way, if someone said, I will give you 25% of whatever you have in your pockets, would you rather have $10 in your pocket or $100 in your pocket? And if you answer $10, well, I don't really know what to say. Obviously 25% of 100 is better than 25% of 10, I'm going for the bigger lasers here, the longer range ones, to get more out of that bonus, leaning into the bonuses. This gives the optimal range of these medium beam lasers as 31.92 kilometers. That's without any skill training at all in medium lasers. 31.92 kilometers is a long range. 32 Ks I can hit at 100% effectiveness. Accuracy fall off is then nearly 12 kilometers apiece, so you go up to 44, and then 56 kilometers away I can hit with beam lasers. That's, to me, that's quite an impressive little feat. And again, that's without training into any of the laser upgrades, which would increase that further. Medium laser upgrade, of course, applies additional optimal range and accuracy fall off bonuses. And with a DPS of 37.78, these things do pack a fair wallop too. You can see that with the drone here being a tiny amount of the DPS, 246.73 DPS without me having any relevant medium laser turret skills. I don't know what to say. That on its own kind of says, yeah, this thing hurts when it hits you. Now, of course, in order to be able to hit you, I fit a couple of different modules around the ship. In the low slots, we've got a Marketeer tracking computer. I'm one of these people who, whenever I see a ship that uses lasers and it's medium or higher, uses a turret that's medium or higher, I 100% hit a tracking computer on there, simply because that gives me a bonus to both the optimal range and the fall off, plus a tracking speed bonus. Whatever type of turret you're using, a tracking computer just makes it better, and they're fairly cheap on the market. This Meta Level 5 I think cost me something like 290,000 ISK, nothing at all to fit one of these, and just the bonuses that it does are absolutely amazing. It's extra range, extra tracking speed bonus, and of course you can activate it for an even bigger boost. That means if I'm a little bit further away, I can activate it to give myself extra range, or if something gets up close, I can then activate it to get that tracking speed bonus and make it a little bit easier to hit them. Now, speaking of hitting things that are up close, 2 Mark 7 stasis webifiers come into the mid slots here, so that anything that gets within 11.8 kilometers of me gets webbed by 1 or 2 of those webs, slows it right down. I can activate that tracking computer, and I can just punch them out of the sky as quickly and efficiently as possible, as much damage as I can to get rid of those. That also is where the drone comes in. Obviously, whichever drone you use doesn't really matter. I've gone for a Mark 7 Infiltrator because it's what I had lying around, and it fit the theme of a Harbinger Prototype. This, obviously, with its drone activation range, in my case, of 24 kilometers, is only useful on things that do get fairly close. If my guns are shooting at 38 kilometers, my drone's only hitting at 24, it's just there as something. It's a secondary line of defense against anything that does get close. Don't just put your drone on the first thing. Let the drone whiz around you in close proximity. When something gets close, tap onto your stasis weather fires, activate the drone, and then bring your turrets to bear on the target if the drone isn't going to be enough to finish it off on its own. Now, if anything does get up close, again, we have here a medium energy Nosferatu. Obviously, it's only got an 8 kilometer optimal range and it goes up to 16 with the accuracy fall off, but it's in case anything gets close. You could put a third stasis weather fire there. For me, the Nosferatu is just in case anything gets close. I can use that as an opportunity to refill my capacitor. And you'll see that thanks to me not having anything at all in the way of Battlecruiser engineering, my capacitor is not even remotely stable, and that is the big problem with me trying to showcase this in combat right now. I need that engineering skill, and I also need the reduction here that you would get for the capacitor requirement thanks to advanced medium laser upgrade. I don't have those, means I can't showcase it because that capacitor really is a big failing here on my version of this ship. Yeah, I could fit a battery to it, but there's no need. If you've got those skills, a battery is going to be absolutely obsolete. Anyway, looking at the rest of the low slots, then we start looking at other damage and survivability. Damage, obviously a Mark 5 heatsink. Better version of the heatsink you have, the better. Obviously the cold version is always 5%, whether it's a Mark 1 or whether it's a full-on Gisty or whatever, a Centi C version. The damage bonus of 5% is the same. It's only the activated bonus that changes. So don't feel too bad about fitting a lower Mark heatsink onto a ship like this, simply because as you do so, you're still getting that basic 5%. It's only the activated version that actually makes a difference. Looking then for something more in regards to the ship's tank, we then have a Gorget medium armor repairer. Yes, it's a medium. I've learnt to double check now. Thanks for all pointing that out during the Mala video. Gorget medium armor repairer to repair any incidental damage that we take. And we then have an adaptive armor hardener. Again, a Mark 5 is actually sufficient for this, but the higher the mark, the better, because it just increases the resistance a little bit. Ultimately, whichever one you go for doesn't make a huge difference, but if you have access to the better ones, go for the better ones, of course. These just increase the resistances to your armor, meaning that your armor takes less damage overall. The less damage you take, the less your armor repairers have to worry about topping up. Obviously, on an armor tank, very, very useful. Now, the final slot here is a bit of a could be either way. I've gone for a Mark 7 medium afterburner. I like to have a bit of propulsion on any ship that I'm using, whether it's a frigate, a destroyer, cruiser, or battlecruiser. I like to have that propulsion to help me maneuver around the battlefield. That said, because the Harbinger Prototype here, we are leaning into those beam lasers, we are going for the high power, long range versions. Ultimately, an afterburner isn't a necessity here. You could go for additional tank, you could go for another tracking computer to up the range even more, you could go for another heatsink to add extra damage. Ultimately, this is where I would personally put the battery if you're not quite as cap stable as you want to be. That said, I know from speaking with other people who are flying Harbingers that right now the ship actually does have a decent capacitor. It is me personally not having the advanced medium laser upgrade skill or having any battlecruiser engineering skills that is causing the capacitor issues with this ship. Now, for the low slots here, for the rigs here, I keep calling them low slots. For the rigs here, I've just fit prototypes just to play around with the ideas and figure out which ones actually work best. And on this ship, a laser collision accelerator, followed by then 2 of the laser aerator prototypes, works out as the best DPS increase. That means 1 of the straight up damage, 2 of the activation time adjustment rigs. That will give you the best result for straight up damage using your lasers. Obviously, prototypes they're free, you get given these thanks to your login rewards, but the better version of these rigs, obviously if you're going to be using a battlecruiser, it's worth fitting it properly. In this case, obviously, Mark 1s or Mark 2s would be an increase over the prototypes. I didn't have them to hand. I'm only borrowing the ship, so I wasn't going to sit there and spend literally hundreds of millions trying to fit it out. Now, for the mechanical rigs here, I've had to leave these empty as I didn't have the prototypes available, but ultimately what you'd be looking at in this case is something either, again, if you're struggling with capacitor stability, go for the one that increases your maximum capacitor capacity. That does increase the gigajoules per second recharge rate, not as big a recharge rate increase as the one that speeds up the recharge rate, but the bigger capacitor does help in total. You start with a larger tank, it takes more time to empty. I've seen, when I've had a look at this on paper, the best way to do it if you're not capacitor stable is 2 of those and then leave the third slot as whatever. Again, you'll find that as you're using those skills, you won't require much in the way of capacitor stability. One of those rigs is usually enough to keep you at capacitor stability from a decent range away. So then the other 2 can kind of be whatever you fancy. They can be the ability to lock on faster, they could be auxiliary thrusters or polycarbon engines to help you maneuver, but quite frankly, for something like a Harbinger, I would go for that one capacitor capacity increase and then fit the others with the ability to lock onto smaller targets faster, as trust me, if something shows up on grid that you weren't expecting and it's a little bit closer than you'd like, the difference between locking onto it in 5 seconds down from 10 seconds is absolutely massive and really will help you survive. I think it's fair to say that Battlecruisers, more than any other ship size available in EVE Echoes right now, are much more sensitive to where your skill points have been spent. What I mean by that is that a frigate, ultimately if you don't have frigate engineering and you don't have the relevant skills, you can usually still just about operate that ship, same with destroyers, but by the time you start hitting cruisers and above, the skill points really start making a big difference to how well that ship operates. You've seen this with the Harbinger, in that I cannot get this ship remotely viable currently for me to pilot, simply because I do not have the relevant skills. Now, the relevant skills in this case are, of course, medium lasers. Medium laser operation, I've got up to 4, thanks to a skill ship being given away as part of the daily login rewards, but as you can see, I don't have anything in advanced medium laser operation or above, and most importantly is that medium laser upgrade, especially to advanced medium laser upgrade. What this does is it actually reduces the amount of capacitor required in order to fire those turrets on the ship. In this case by 50% on the Harbinger Prototype. That's a huge difference to help you maintain capacitor stability. The skill itself also increases damage by 10%, the accuracy fall off and optimal range go up by 10%, and the heatsink lasts an additional 2 seconds. That's on top of obviously the medium laser upgrade doing its bonuses there, and you should have also been training into medium laser operation, which is a flat up increase to damage and tracking speed, and I think there's possibly an additional one. Does it give capacitor on there at level 5? No, it is just the damage and the tracking speed. As you can see, I don't have either of those trained, which means I don't get that additional damage which you would see applied on the Harbinger Prototype, and I don't have that additional assistance to capacitor stability thanks to the advanced medium laser upgrade levels. Of course, beyond that, there are other skills that are relevant directly to Battlecruisers too. Battlecruiser Command, again, I was given as part of the skill chip from the daily login rewards, 20% reduction to Battlecruiser inertia modifier and a 16% increase to the velocity. That caps out at 25 and 25 if trained up to level 5. There's no point for me training it up to level 5, I don't personally fly Battlecruisers. Well worth it though if you are intending to, and certainly my alt that is looking to train into Battlecruisers will have that up to level 5 soon enough. The aim there, though, is that a lot of Battlecruisers do get additional bonuses to that. The Harbinger Prototype we saw gets a 5% inertia velocity reduction per level in Battlecruiser Command, so I'm getting an additional 20% inertia modifier there, so it's actually a 40% reduction, or approximately by the time it stacks and how it works. Beyond that, however, things like the engineering skill are absolutely vital here. Battlecruiser engineering, you can see that once that's trained up to level 5, that's an additional 25% Battlecruiser capacitor capacity, so it's a 25% bigger tank, and it gets the 30% reduction to capacitor warp capacity need, and a 25% increase to Battlecruiser power grid. Now, if you jump back to where you saw the fittings, you'll have seen that actually I'm running pretty close to the fittings being full hot on that ship, being completely packed onto the power grid. That means if I wanted to put 2 tracking computers on, I'm not actually going to be able to do that, thanks to not having sufficient levels in Battlecruiser engineering. Very well worthwhile training, especially if you're going to be using any form of weapon that uses capacitor, either lasers or hybrids, railguns. Of course, those use capacitor as well. Engineering skills really help with that. Targeting as well, simply because the Battlecruisers are able to lock onto more targets than other ships. You need to have the target management skill trained up there in order to have the increase to the maximum number of locked targets. Here you can see I have a total maximum of 6, 3 plus 3. That means if I were to fly into the Harbinger, which has the ability to lock onto 8, I can still only lock onto 6. I would need to take that up to advanced target management, and of course at level 5 there's an additional 2 maximum lock targets on there. Defense upgrade, of course, very useful as well. If we go down to Battlecruiser defense upgrade, that's straight up 3,000 hit points onto what you already have on the ship. Advanced Battlecruiser then adds that as additional percentile, and percentile obviously can be huge. If your ship's got 25% increase onto a 10,000 tank, that's 2,500. That's more than the 1,000 you'd get from the basic level skill there, and that of course stacks. What I'm trying to get at here is that Battlecruisers are incredibly powerful ships, but they do require a fairly hefty skill point investment. Now, I've got an alternate character who is currently training almost exclusively into Battlecruiser relevant abilities in order to fly my personal Hurricane, and it's taking so much skill points and so much effort into getting that ship viable compared to if I were using frigates, destroyers, or cruisers. If you're going to be piloting something like the Harbinger, you need to commit to it. And fortunately, with October 13th being mentioned that we're having the ability to pay to reallocate our skill points, that's going to be exceptional. We don't know how that's going to work properly yet, other than that it's going to cost 1 plex per 5,000 skill points reallocated. Whether that's you pay 1 plex and you can drain 5,000 out of a skill that you're using, or whether you have to basically say, well, this skill is 50,000, therefore I need 10 plex to withdraw the full amount. That kind of thing, we don't know. Keep an eye out, I will give more information on that one close to the time. But those are definitely the skills you should be training. As with any ship, go for the skills that are relevant to the ship at hand. In this case, obviously, Advanced Medium Laser Upgrade and Battlecruiser Command. But then you will need those support skills too, in the form of things like Battlecruiser Engineering, possibly even things like Shield Operation or Afterburner and stuff like that, just to get the most out of it. Battlecruisers really do require that investment, so good luck with that. Anyway, folks, that does wrap up everything that I can say at this point in regards to the Harbinger Prototype. I do enjoy this ship. It's one of the ships I think is one of the more memorable hulls. It's not really my style, but I know a lot of people do like it. It's a very typical Amarr ship. Very unusual in how the turrets go on these weird little wings on the side there. Very cool looking ship, and I know a lot of folks have asked me about it, so that's my thoughts, that's my opinions on how you'd fit this and how you'd get it working. I do hope to one day, once my alt is trained up to the point where I can start using things other than the Hurricane, maybe I'll get to showcase this again in future. But until then, a lot of you were asking, and I hope that answers your questions. Do let me know in the comment section down below. I am trying to move away from doing things like Battlecruisers and cruisers until such time that my alts actually reach a capability to properly showcase that, because I don't like putting out a video like this where it's purely theoretical. I want to showcase it in action when I can. Anyway, folks, if you're flying a Harbinger Prototype or in any other battlecruiser, let me know in the comment section down below how you're getting on. Of course, come take a screenshot in-game, post it to Twitter, and use the hashtag CSKL to showcase how awesome your ship looks. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!